All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for NDPA's Back to School webinar. My name is Adam Ketchmarchi. I'm the Executive Director of the National Drowning Prevention Alliance. Thank you at home for joining us, and special thanks to Dan Brzezinski and Alyssa Magrum. Dan is a board member at Stop Drowning Now, and Alyssa is the Executive Director of Colin's Hope. We've asked them to join us today as our panelists for our Back to School Water Safety Education in Schools discussion. We know so many of you around the country, this is a major focus point. We know schools can be an excellent outlet to get drowning prevention and water safety education out to the masses. And we've asked Colin's Hope and Stop Drowning Now to join us today and share a little bit about what their organization's doing, the curriculums they've developed, and have a general discussion on how we can get more water safety education in schools. Attendees today, you can participate in today's webinar by using the chat function and the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible before our 1 hour time limit runs out. I'll be monitoring those questions in the chat boxes, so feel free to interact with our panelists or myself today. Like I said, we'll get to your questions if possible. And before we get started, as always, I want to thank D&D Technologies, who's the sponsor of our summer NDPA webinar series. We'll be continuing our webinar series into the fall. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of today's webinar. So to get started today, I'd like to introduce Dan Brzezinski, who's going to go lead us off today. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Dan, I'll turn it off to you. You can introduce yourself and Stop Drowning Now, and then you can get into talking about Stop Drowning Now's curriculum and what you folks have been up to, and then Alyssa, we'll jump to you right after.
Perfect. So thank you all for having me. Thank you to NDPA and the board of Stop Drowning Now. They said, can you do 5 minutes on Stop Drowning Now? Because we have some educators who are going to come in and do the rest. And then I want to thank them for duping me into a 20-minute, 25-minute talk here. So, but I'm really excited. I've been with Stop Drowning Now going on almost 5 years now. My involvement started, I have swim schools and I have a lifeguard service in Southern California. We staff a few hundred lifeguards, and I made a comment to Johnny Johnson, who I learned to swim in Johnny's swim school, about all the things that I wish Stop Drowning Now was doing for swim schools. And he said, great, you're on the board. And since then I've been on the board, and we're making some really fun moves, and we're affecting a lot of change, which is really exciting. So the focus of Stop Drowning Now, what some of you may or may not know, is our curriculum. We have a self-funded online curriculum platform that we give for free to any educators that choose to want to use it. And I'll talk a lot about that curriculum. Actually, the whole talk is on that curriculum today. So far, we've had over 90,000 students go through our curriculum, and they're using it all across the country in various different levels of use. So, I mean, some are choosing to use all of it, some are choosing to use bits and pieces of it. But the fact of the matter is we have 90,000 students that have gone through. So far, as we sit today, we're in Omaha, Nebraska, Hillsborough County, Florida, Citrus County, Florida, New Jersey, Orange County, California, Riverside, California, and that's just to name a few. Those are the ones that have come on relatively recently. And every day, it's funny because before we kind of tweaked the way Stop Drowning Now operated, Johnny would give everybody and anybody the curriculum, bits and pieces of the curriculum, never really tracking where it went or who it went to. I shouldn't call Johnny out for that, but we still get calls every day that say, you know what, we've been using your curriculum now for 3 years or 4 years. Not the online, but just the paper curriculum. And we love it, and we want to move to the online. We didn't even know they were using it the whole time, so I think that number is likely a lot bigger than we know. Again, the curriculum is free. The platform is free to use for any educators. Anyone with an .edu email address gets the curriculum for free, and we'll get into that now. I'm going to hold off any questions that anybody has. I'm going to let Adam just kind of guide me at the end here. So Stop Drowning Now's curriculum suite offers different versions to serve everybody's needs. We know that not everybody can pull off the full curriculum at their school, so we offer a few different versions. The first one is our flagship, roughly 22-hour curriculum. That 22-hour curriculum can be broken up over the course of a year. It can be broken up over the course of a semester. However anyone chooses to use it, that's completely up to you. Again, we give you access to the curriculum, and you can basically plug and play and go and start banging away at all the different pieces and parts of the curriculum as you choose, as you see fit. The next piece is a Water Safety Week. This has historically been our most popular program. It's a 1 week or 5-day program. It's 45 minutes to an hour each day. Generally, we're seeing a huge uptick in use as we're heading into summer. And a lot of the schools that are using this 45-minute or this Water Safety Week version are basically knocking it into one continuous week every day for about 45 minutes to an hour. Now, again, we've seen people use the Water Safety Week curriculum or the 5-day curriculum over the course of 5 months or 5 weeks. However you choose to want to use it, you can use it. And the last one is our presentations, our school presentations, puppet shows. They're about 30 minutes to about an hour, however the school chooses to use it. Now, again, we use very different curriculums, and I'll talk to you about this in just a minute, but we use very different formats for this. In Orange County, we're now doing K through 3. We're going through the Stop Drowning Now curriculum, and we've teamed up with the local lifeguard agencies, the beach lifeguard agencies, to talk to our older kids. The older kids, the 4th through 6th grade or 4th through 8th grade, they don't find it quite as sexy to talk about building a fence. So we bring in the lifeguards with their buoys and in their uniforms with their lifeguard trucks, and they do beach safety as a supplement. Okay, so why is the platform and curriculum so effective? So we think that it's really fun and engaging. The kids, when we talk about the songs that we have built into the platform, and we talk about all the different bits and pieces of the platform, a week after, we'll go talk to the parents at these schools. We'll do the kids first, then we'll move on to the parents. And they'll basically throw a fist up at us or a special finger at us and say, my kid has not stopped singing that song since you left the school, which is exactly what we want, right? We want them to remember the information. We want them to get excited about the information. So the key there is that it's engaging. It comes complete with everything. So songs, games, stories, coloring books, activity books, other hands-on age-appropriate activities that the kids can use. So we've really continued to build and to add on to the program as we've built it out. And every day we're adding more and more to it, which you'll see in just a little bit here. There are parent letters that go out throughout their entire curriculum. So parents are actually asked to engage as well. It could be a water safety checklist in your home. Where are the dangers associated with water around your home? And the parents are asked to do this homework assignment with the kids in their homes and then bring it back so the teachers can review it with them. So oftentimes we get this question, what do the activities look like and how do the lesson plans work? So the platform was built with an idea, and the activities were built by educators. We have hired guns, so to speak, who built out this curriculum to speak specifically to educators. And we've had to make some adjustments to that because not everybody using the curriculum is an educator, so we've had to tweak it a little bit, but it is built for educators. Now, what you can see in the picture here, if you can see my screen, is we've got the giraffe who's sitting at about 10 or 11 feet tall. And then we've got the kids who have, after measuring themselves, they get to put themselves on the pool to see how they stack up in the depth of the pool. So this activity specifically is called How Do I Measure Up? And it utilizes a water depth chart. So, the giraffe can stand up in 8 feet or 9 feet, but you certainly can't. Look where you'll be if you go into deep water, if you aren't swimming or know how to swim. We go through a focus, which is developing the concept of depth of water compared to the student's heights. It's something, as we talk about it, pie in the sky, the kids have a hard time understanding it. But as we start to put their bodies up against the chart, against the giraffe, they can see, wow, there's no way I can get my head above water, this deeper water. And the kids got to build the giraffe, they got to build the pool, and we turned it into an activity. Key vocabulary in this activity would be depth, deep, shallow. There could be a number of other key vocabulary words that we use. Every activity is a little bit different. And then most importantly for teachers, you want to know how long it's going to take me, right? So how long do I have to dedicate to this specific activity? Now, the beauty of the platform is that you can pick and choose. So let's just say, you love our 22-hour curriculum, but you can't get into it right now. The school won't allow it. You need to stick to a water safety week. And you love this giraffe water depth activity, and it's not part of that water safety week. You can pick and choose bits and pieces of all the curriculum once you find your favorites, and you find the ones that work for you and your kids. So another activity, discuss an emergency. Okay, what is a lifesaver? What does it mean? Okay, where do emergencies occur? They could occur in the classroom, they can occur in the playground, they can occur in the pool. We created it's an emergency or it's not an emergency chart. So the kids get to decide what is and is not an emergency. And it gets them thinking about where the dangers lay. And then my kid's favorite, practice dialing 911. So if there is an emergency, practice dialing 911. Students describe emergencies at home and at school and who to call for help in situations. So we're running through this with the kids. They're taking it home, they're discussing it with their parents, and we want them to understand when it is or is not an emergency. Key vocabulary in this one would be dangerous, lifesaver, emergency action plan, equipment, and then obviously at the end here, time. How long is this going to take me to get through this activity? So as you can tell, some of our activities are way more hands-on, project-based learning. Some are discussions, and there's a little bit of everything in there. I find that the kids that we've worked with personally here in Orange County, they love the projects. They need to get hands-on. They need to see what sinks, what floats. They need to see depth on a chart. That works for us, and then other schools we've heard otherwise. So these are just a couple of examples of other activities that schools have done, and I'll jump into it. So I briefly talked before about the puppet shows and the assembly style presentations. Now these are turning out to be just as a volunteer and someone who has limited time. I'm not an educator in a classroom. These are turning out to be my favorite activities. These are my favorite things. They're the assembly style presentations. I'm going to talk more on these in a little bit, but they're a great way to introduce the curriculum to the schools. Sorry, I'll turn this off. So when the schools are maybe a little bit shy about jumping into a full 22-hour curriculum, this puppet show or assembly style presentation can really give a taste of what the program is all about and give principals and decision makers the ability to see exactly what we're doing and how professional it really is. We have yet to talk to a principal who runs through a puppet show or an assembly style presentation that won't commit to the 5-day water safety week. We haven't had it yet. Once they see it, once they see that the kids are engaging and we're not, basically they see that we know what we're doing and the curriculum is professionally built, we approach them the next day and say, hey, next year or in the spring, we want to bring in this 5-day water safety week. And we've never had anybody say no. Utilize all the same curriculum, a lot of the same information, but we boil it down into about a 30 to 45-minute presentation. Now, I have done, no exaggeration, 300 kids in an assembly for the 30 to 45-minute presentation. I've also done it in a classroom. They're both effective, they're both fun, it's just what you can and cannot do. Obviously with 300 kids, I can't build Sammy the Starfish puppets, whereas in a smaller classroom setting, we can build that with the kids. And really important, something we're really excited about, which is coming out in the next, I would say in the next few weeks, if not the next month or so, are the storyboards. The storyboards will be specifically designed for these assemblies, where you can literally show the storyboards to the kids. There's a script on the back, and you can literally run through the storyboards in an assembly style presentation. Water safety weeks, we say it's a wonderful way for teachers to start using the full curriculum, right? So it's not 22 hours, it's about 4.5 to 5 hours throughout the course of a week or throughout the course of a month. But there are countless activities, and as I mentioned before, there's no, we give you the basic order of how things are supposed to go. Day one is generally an introduction. Day one, we're doing safer water. Day two, safer water, then safer kids, safer response. And then we jump into a graduation or some kind of summary at the end of the last day. It's also a great way for parents and partners to introduce Stop Drowning Now to their schools. Again, when we go to schools in the beginning, we have and we talk to a school that has not used the curriculum in the past, and we say, hey, we want to bring this 22-hour curriculum into your school. They basically say thank you, but no thank you. We think it's important, but it's not something we can do. But we kind of whet their appetite a little bit with the presentations. Then we move into the water safety weeks. Then we see schools starting to move into the full curriculum. Now, data collection. This is so important. This is I would say it's the most important piece of this whole thing for us. And we're tracking everything. We're tracking everybody who uses the platform. We're tracking incidences in communities before and after we start using the platform. So we track engagements, number of children served using the platform, location, geographic location, schools, cities. Do the children have access to water, and are they doing swim lessons? And then much more. And we can actually add to this as we go. So we're getting a lot of feedback from educators that say, I would really like to know X, Y, Z after we're complete. Or 6 months down the road when we do a retest, I would love to be able to know this. And we're able to add that to the questionnaire. And as the teachers complete each and every day or each assignment, they're filling out the information. So you can see we've got name of school, we've got name of teacher, grade level, how many students are in the class, and then we can get into more and more information. Now, data is the key, right? So if we can't prove that the curriculum is working, I can't convince new people to come in and start using the curriculum. But with our data collection, we are already able to prove that the curriculum is working. We're now working on pre-tests and post-tests. So we're working with, locally, we're working with some folks from local hospital in the epidemiology department. They are building out our pre-tests and our post-tests. So, 6 months down the road or 3 months down the road or in the fall after they've done a water safety week, what did they retain, what did they remember, as well as were there any incidences in those classrooms that we talked about? Did any of the kids have any issues? I will say, just on a personal note, data collection aside, I run through this curriculum with my children. I have 3 children, and my children swim beautifully, and they know that they swim beautifully. They're a little bit cocky about it. They're young, but they're cocky about it. But one of the rules that we talk about in the curriculum is where if a mom or dad or a guardian or an adult is not watching you while you're in the water, you absolutely have to get out each and every time. So my kids are swimming in the pool. I ran in really quickly to fill up a glass of water. I come back on deck, and all 3 of my kids are standing out on the pool deck watching me. And I look at them and I say, guys, what are you doing? You're swimming. So no, there was no mom or dad watching me, and I had to get out of the water because that's what Stop Drowning Now teaches me. And it sounds somewhat hokey, but it's 100% true that it absolutely happened to my kids. And my kids are pretty competent in the water. And I know Adam's going to punch me for that one. Should never have left the pool deck. So as we kind of near the end of this is the thing that I'm most excited about right now. So the Stop Drowning Now cities and Stop Drowning Now clubs. So what we're finding is that getting teachers to commit the time and the energy to start offering this program in the classrooms and in assembly style presentations has been a challenge. It's starting to really gather steam now, and I'm really proud of where we are right now. But we've had to go and kind of circumvent the system, so to speak, to try and find different ways to get in front of these kids. So what we've started building out is 2 things. One, are Stop Drowning Now cities. So you can see the easy up and tablecloth for the city of Seal Beach in California. They're our newest Stop Drowning Now city. And we are working, Stop Drowning Now is working directly with the city. When they join on with Stop Drowning Now, we provide them with easy ups, tablecloths, water watcher tags, material for their booths to go to all city events. So concerts in the park, Easter events, Christmas events, Halloween events. They set up these Stop Drowning Now booths at the cities. Now, staffing those is obviously a challenge. So what we did is we built these Stop Drowning Now high school clubs. Now, high school clubs serve 3 very important purposes. One, we're teaching this, we're giving those younger kids the ability to continue with the drowning prevention message as they get older and as they grow up. 2, high school kids have a really easy time getting into the elementary schools. So the high school kids can actually take our curriculum. We're training them in the club setting in their high schools. They're going into the elementary schools and say, hi, I'm Joe Schmo from X high school down the street where your kids are eventually going to go. And our club would like to come in and do a drowning prevention presentation for your kids before summer. And again, they can't say no to that. The high school kids are super involved. They're earning valuable, one, they're earning valuable lessons, but they're getting valuable volunteer credits as well. They are building the clubs. We're just providing staff to kind of help oversee them, but it's really taking on a life of its own. We launched the Orange County clubs this year. In one meeting, we had just literally one email to my staff, to be honest with you. 19 non-staff members joined on. We're in 9 high schools, which basically we have, it's somewhere about 44, 45 elementary schools that feed to those high schools that we now have access to. So we're going into these elementary schools and we're providing all these lessons for them. Now, as we build out the Stop Drowning Now clubs and Stop Drowning Now cities, these kids are actually staffing the booths at all these city events as well. So when they're doing the Turkey Trot 5K, the high school club kids will be staffing the Stop Drowning Now booth at the event, which is really fun. And then they get to go in front of the elementary school students. In short, we've gone through all the different versions of the curriculum and everything that we offer and how we offer it. It is, the platform was launched about, I guess we're going on almost 2 years now, a year and a half now. And it's ever changing. We're getting a lot of great feedback from a lot of great educators who are die-hard drowning prevention. And we welcome all your feedback, and we want to continue to build and make the platform better. But we want to challenge you. We want to challenge you to help us educate to eliminate drowning. I have no doubt that we can fix this problem. We can. But it starts, it's a generational shift. It's going to take a major generational shift. So it's getting these high school kids to talk to the elementary school kids, getting the teachers to talk to these elementary school kids, getting them to understand exactly where the dangers lay. And then from there, building a culture of water safety, which I'm really excited about. With that, I'll open up to any questions if Adam wants to guide me on that one. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, but I'm here to answer any questions.
So Dan, we have one question in that we'll address now, and Alyssa, I'll probably give you the same question at the end of yours. I think it ties into both programs. Has Stop Drowning Now, has your curriculum combined with actual swim lessons, or if you have or haven't, what would that look like to add the swim component in with the dry land?
Great question. The answer is no. At this point, we're a dry curriculum. Obviously, part of our curriculum is to encourage swim lessons, but as a swim school owner, I'm here saying to you that the dry component is so very important for us. Because there are a lot of kids who don't have access to pools, and living on a farm in Montana, they may not worry about swimming pools, but they have to worry about ponds and other things. We can't teach all those specific things, but the dry curriculum can address all those different things, right? So at this point, we do encourage swim lessons. We think it's very important for kids to learn how to swim, but this is a dry curriculum. This is for kids who can afford lessons, who cannot afford lessons. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Dan. It's been so exciting to watch and see how Stop Drowning Now has evolved over the years. And I found my little Timmy tadpole. So I've been we've been partners with Stop Drowning Now for a long time. So it's real exciting to see how the program's grown, and thank you for sharing. We'll now turn it over to Alyssa to talk a little bit about Colin's Hope, and then Dan, we'll bring you back in here for our discussion after Alyssa's presentation. And I think everyone's going to think I'm a kleptomaniac, but I also may have stolen something from Alyssa's curriculum.
I was wondering if it was coming out today.
Yeah, and the funny part about this is I don't know if everyone at home can see this, but it says grown-ups should watch you. And when I stole this, there were no grown-ups watching me, so I don't know what to say. Alyssa, thanks for joining us today, and I know we're all excited to hear what Colin's Hope has been up to, so I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks NDPA for asking us to be part of this. I will say that when I returned home from the NDPA and realized that there was a piece of a curriculum missing, and sorry, someone out there now has a curriculum with no grown-up should watch you. I'm just kidding, but it was funny to see that where that actually went, Adam. No, I'm really happy to be here, and it was really great. Dan, thanks for your presentation. we're out doing similar things and working. There's a lot of people to educate and a lot of kids to educate. And I love listening to the Stop Drowning Now presentation. I've watched it grow and change over the years. And so it's really great to hear where you guys are at and get a chance to share where Colin's Hope is at with our Water Safety with Colin and Friends curriculum. So to give a little bit of history and background on Colin's Hope, first, we've been around for 11 years. Colin Holst lost his life to a fatal drowning in a public lifeguarded pool here in Austin, where we're based. After Colin's drowning and his parents, Jeff and Jana Holst, learned that drowning is the #1 cause of unintentional injury-related death for children under 5, but it's preventable, and Colin was 4. They vowed to do something to prevent drowning, and so they started Colin's Hope. My daughter, who's now a freshman in high school, happened to be in preschool with Colin. And so drowning became an issue suddenly as a parent and a caregiver that I realized was something I needed to think about, which was not until Colin drowned. So since then, we've been around for 11 years. That was 11 years ago. We have been working in Central Texas, where Austin is, in the state of Texas and beyond, to see what we can do to prevent drowning. And for sure, we have decided that education and awareness is key, both parent and caregiver education as well as child education. And exactly what Dan was saying at the end of his around changing the culture of water safety and creating better, safer behaviors around water. That's what we're about too. Developing safer behaviors for children at the earliest of age, and then developing and making behavior changes for the adults and caregivers in their lives. So all of that to be said is that our Water Safety with Colin and Friends, and I chose not to do a PowerPoint, but I do have lots of things to hold up in front of the camera and show and tell. This is Water Safety with Colin and Friends. That's Colin and his pet seal buddy. Our curriculum has evolved over the years, as Stop Drowning Now has as well, from being a pieced together, cobbled together situation that was a solution that we needed at the time a few years ago, to now becoming a full-fledged evidence-based drowning prevention solution and tool, targeting pre-K through 2nd grade, and we've got some extensions for older kids. And I say the evidence-based because it's really, really important, and I was glad to hear Dan also talk about this, because there's a lot of drowning prevention things going on around the world and around the country and in communities everywhere, but not everyone is evaluating whether or not what they're doing is actually working. And so that is something that from the very beginning, Colin's Hope has said, if we're gonna do something, we need to know if it's working. So we need to be able to prove it. And if it's not working, we need to be able to respond and change things around so that it can work. And what we're trying to affect with our curriculum is we're trying to increase kids' water safety knowledge. And I'll answer the swim lessons piece, because ours does in some cases connect up, well, pairs seamlessly with swim lessons, and we do it with swim lessons when we're working with swim lesson providers in our communities that have the curriculum. So I can talk about that a little bit later. But this is also the basis of what we have, as a dry land curriculum that pairs with swim lessons when you can and when it's appropriate. It's really difficult. Access to water is in transportation to pools and all of that is a really big challenge in some communities. So for our curriculum, it's dry land. The high points, I'm going to hit some of the high points first, and then I'll delve into it a little bit more deeply. It is very simple. What we did when we created it is we wanted something that was very simple. We wanted something that a certified teacher could teach in a classroom if that was an option, but also that anyone could teach, whether it be a YMCA swim instructor who also is going to do the curriculum alongside it, or a preschool teacher who is teaching in a preschool, or even, and I love this cross-age peer tutoring, we've got some middle school students that have learned the curriculum and are teaching pre-K and kindergartners. So for ours, we've got Girl Scout troop leaders teaching it. We've got Boy Scout troop leaders teaching it. We've got lifeguards teaching it. So a big high point of ours is it's very, very simple. There's online training videos to learn it. We can also do training in person, but it's really the simplicity of it. We have an instructor. There is an instructor guide that is for instructors. We also just have a simple curriculum guide that's a front and a back that people, whoever is teaching it, can teach from. And so it's very simple, it's very easy to learn, it's very easy to teach. It doesn't take up a lot of time. I spent a little bit on my background. I spent 10 years working for communities and schools prior to being at Colin's Hope. And my job at communities and schools was dropout prevention, not drowning prevention, but dropout prevention. And we were working as a community-based organization getting programming into schools. And I learned very quickly in that job that teachers have a lot to do. They are being asked to do a ton while they have kids in the classroom. They're dealing with lots of classroom management things. They're dealing with educational standards. They're dealing with testing, all these things that do put up barriers when you're asking to put something else in the classroom. And so for us, we wanted this curriculum to be something that a teacher could do if they had an entire week and they wanted to do a water safety week, or they could do something in 15 minutes, as little as that if they needed to. So our curriculum in its full entirety is designed where it's 8 lessons, and those lessons, depending on the age, if it's pre-K or kinder or first, they can be a little bit longer and you can go deeper, but you can do a lesson in 15 minutes. You can extend it out and do a lesson in an hour if that's how much time that you have. So it's 8 lessons, 8 days. When we pair it with swimming lessons, it goes alongside the swimming lessons piece. But you can teach the entire 8 lessons, or similar to Stop Drowning Now, you can pick and choose. If you only want to do lesson number 1, and I'm going to hold up lesson number 1, actually I'll hold this up. This is a miniature version of our whole hand. These are big teacher size classroom charts in the curriculum, but that doesn't fit in the screen. So we have this mini one that actually our Department of Family and Protective Services home visitors are taking this miniature one into homes and doing parent education. All the pieces are removable, which is great for this age. But this one is lesson number 1, and they go through all of the whole hand rules. And the whole hand rules are: wait for a grown-up, learn to swim, wear a life jacket, grown-ups should be watching you, stay away from drains. And we are changing it up, and we're actually including a new, it's always been part of it, but we're realizing as we've seen a huge need for open water safety, whether we've seen kids in Texas specifically drowning in ponds and lakes and rivers and beaches. And so we had to respond to that and kind of raise that up in the curriculum. So someone can do all 8 lessons where they do, here's our little curriculum guide. Lesson number 1 is the whole hand, and they go over all of the whole hand rules, which are the 5 rules. Lesson number 2, which would be on the second day, is wait for a grown-up, and they go very deeply into wait for a grown-up and what that means. Wait for a grown-up before going to water. They review the whole hand, which was lesson number 1. Then lesson number 3, which is here, and it's all color-coded, is learn to swim. The importance of learning how to swim and what that means, and what are some safety and survival skills in swimming. And so that day, lesson 3 goes deeply into that. Lesson number 4 is wear a life jacket. And I have a little thing here. Actually, here's my wear a life jacket. And I have the Spanish rules, but we came up with some rules for life jacket. We teach kids that life jackets should fit tight like a hug. All the buckles should close. And this is the Spanish one, that the life jackets should stay close to their chest. So we go deeply into that lesson on the wear a life jacket day. And also in that day, which this lines up with one of the things that we're really being mindful about doing this in schools is when and where we can, lining up with educational standards. As I mentioned earlier, one of the big challenges you have with getting anything into a school is, does it meet the educational standards? I know in Texas it's called the STAR test, our standardized testing. And if we can line up with what teachers already have to teach for the test, then we can take something off of their plate. So one of the lessons in our Wear a Life Jacket is about buoyancy. And if you look here, you see our orange that's wearing the life jacket is floating, and the orange that's not wearing the life jacket is sank to the bottom. And that particular lesson also fits as a science experiment and meets some science standards. So that is something that I think is a big strength of our curriculum, is that we really have gone through the educational standards and continue to line them up. Really, we went through the list of what are the challenges to getting a curriculum into schools and into classrooms, and then tried to design it to meet and beat every one of those challenges. So the next lesson, lesson 5, is grown-ups should be watching you when we talk about barriers, fences, not climbing over fences, that sort of thing. Lesson number 6 is stay away from drains. We go deeply into that. Lesson number 7, we have a water safety relay, which I have the relay board is under my computer, so I can't pull that up, but it's basically, this one could meet some PE standards because it has, it's a board, think of a twister board that has different layers of protection, and the kids throw a beanbag onto the layer of protection. There's hand motions and arm motions and songs that go with all of the lessons. They do the hand motion, they run and get the beanbag, and they give it to their friends. So that particular lesson day meets some physical movement standards when you're talking about, so it's very easy to fit that one into PE or into something like that. And then lesson number 8 is our water safety bingo game, which is really great for fine motor skills. And it also goes, this is an example of the bingo board, but it also goes through each of the layers of protection. We actually add in bingo, no diving in that one, which is not discussed deeply in one of the other lessons. So that's day 8. So someone can do the whole curriculum, all 8 lessons, if they have that time. If not, you can get lesson number 1, do lesson number 2. If you're having an issue in your area around open water, that's a great one to just do that, do that lesson when you can. So it's very flexible. We have evaluated it from the very, very beginning. A PhD student who's now a doctor, Dr. Kelly Frendell, chose to do her entire dissertation for her PhD on this water safety curriculum. So we have data from the last 5 years that show with statistical significance that this program does increase kids' water safety knowledge. We also have data, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about this, about when we pair it with swim lessons, our swim lesson provider partner, in the case of the model that I'll talk about right now is the YMCA of Austin. The kids come to the YMCA, half of the group gets the water safety dryland curriculum in the gym, while the other half gets a swimming lesson, and then they switch, and they do that 8 times. And so we're able to also track their swimming skills and their swimming progress. So did they increase their swimming skills as well? So I too am a major data geek, and I don't want us to be doing anything that is not showing that it works. Because if we're doing something and it's not moving the needle, then we got to do something different. And so we're able to track. We know we've delivered over 25,000 water safety educational lessons through this program since its onset. And we've also had over 75,000 swim lessons that have been part of it too. So we got the numbers, and we also had in the demographic data, and then we also have the outcome data. Are we seeing change? And we are, and that's one of the most exciting things for a person who does evaluation, to see is, hey, we're doing a program that works, and we need to keep doing that. But then we use pre and post surveys, and I will show you. I don't know if you probably can't see them on the board behind me, but we have a pre and post test that our evaluator has done, and now we're launching an online pre and post. So anyone who delivers the curriculum can use the online pre and post. We don't have to have an evaluator that's doing it, but the pre and post questions are 6 questions that are pictorial, because younger children can't necessarily read. So the interviewer or the person delivering the survey, the pre or post test, reads a script. The child points to the picture that lines up with their answer. So for example, one of the questions is, this boy wants to go swimming. What should he do to stay safer? And it has Should he go swimming by himself? Should he go swimming with a friend, or should he go swimming with an adult? And the pictures represent that, and they pick the picture. Then we do the post test at the end after they've had the intervention to see if we've moved the needle and changed and increasing their knowledge. And again, our impact data shows that we have. So that's really, really exciting from that standpoint. One of the things that I want to talk a little bit about water safety with Colin and friends is the diversity of places where we're using this curriculum. So we are working, it started out as a complement to the YMCA of Austin, their Project Safe program, which they were doing, getting kids out of school, at the time, first graders, getting kids out of school to take them on a bus to the YMCA to do swim lessons. And we were sponsoring those swim lessons for years, and then finally said, why are we not doing the water safety education, dry land piece? And started doing that alongside the pre-K kids. And now we're doing it alongside all the pre-K, kinder, and first grade that are getting that program. So we're working in Austin with the YMCA of Austin. We've moved down to San Antonio with our partners at the Miss Tristan Foundation and the YMCA in San Antonio. We're actually working through the Catholic schools down there. I believe they're getting into 30 schools this year through the Catholic schools using the Water Safety with Colin and Friends curriculum. And I love the model that they're doing down there because the kids are actually getting the curriculum from their teachers in school, and then they go to the YMCA for the swim lessons. So the model is a bit different in Austin. The YMCA staff are doing the dry land lessons and the swim lessons. In San Antonio, we flipped the model a little bit, and the teachers are doing the program, the dry land curriculum, where the swim lesson, then they go to the YMCA, and the YMCA instructors know the language the kids are learning in the curriculum and model some of that when they're in the water doing the lessons. The situations where we've got the dry land curriculum being used as a standalone, we're piloting it and using it in a lot of different places, which some of them are really, really, well, all of them are really exciting. We've got some preschools, so some private preschools that are doing it. We've got some elementary schools that are putting into the pre-K, kinder, and first grade. And different people are teaching it. So we have a great situation happening down in Corpus Christi where we have a middle school team leadership class that is learning the curriculum, and then they are going and teaching it to kinder and pre-K kids in a school down the way. We're also about to do that in a PALS, using the PALS high school class, similar to what I think that Dan was talking about their high school clubs. We do see the power in utilizing high school volunteers. We work with a number of service groups, so Young Men's Service League, National Honor Society, National Charity League. Those are some of our key volunteers to do events, community events, but also getting them trained to teach the curriculum in whatever format they can is amazing. And it's really great because we also then get to talk water safety with that age group and that demographic. The message is different, but we need to be talking with our older kids about water safety as well. So this kind of gives a really nice way to sneak that in with them and help them to create safer behaviors around water. And I love hitting all the demographics. While our target age is under 5, we need to talk to everyone. So that's a really sweet spot there. We've been doing the curriculum through some camps this summer. We've got the curriculum at Variety, which is a charity here. They're nationwide, but they have a camp here in Texas, and they've been delivering it. Our partners at the Zach Foundation, who they do the Zach camps with the Boys and Girls Clubs and the Red Cross, and they have a curriculum as well for the camps, but they've been supplementing so their curriculum using some of the pieces of ours, which is really, really great. That camp setting is such a nice chance to do it. We've been working with Vacation Bible Schools to get it into when they've got kids during this summer. We've got the International School of Texas is using the curriculum there. We've got, one that we're really excited. We know there's a lot going on in the adaptive aquatics world. And so we really wanted to make sure that our curriculum could be used for adapted for special needs children as well. So one of our programs through the YMCA of Austin and school district in Wimberley where we have we've adapted the curriculum a little bit. And now we've got an occupational therapy, pediatric therapy location that has the curriculum and is using some lessons in their therapy, occupational therapy, with some of their kids. They work with kids that are on the autism spectrum as well as other things. But so that's a really exciting new model for us as well. Or if you can tell by all the different ways that we're using it, this curriculum is really flexible, it's really adaptable, it's innovative. We feel like it can change with the needs of the community too. So for example, I go to Honduras to teach water safety and swim lessons on a swim mission trip. I've gone with Kim Schultz, Swim Kim, with Face in Water over the last few years. And I took the Colin's Hope, the Water Safety with Colin Friends curriculum the first year that we went. And I quickly realized that some of the messaging that we had, the wear a life jacket message, for example, was not applicable in an international situation where I was, because there weren't any life jackets at all anywhere, and they weren't going to be there. So that lesson didn't make very much sense, but wow, there was a huge opportunity to talk about open water and rip currents and things like that. So I modified our curriculum on the fly, and then now some of those changes have become things that we've put into the curriculum. So we are not afraid to change things as need-based. I think I mentioned earlier, in Texas, we've been seeing lots of open water drownings and lots of pond drownings. And so we're responding to that and redialing some of things in our curriculum for this upcoming year to address the real needs that are going on. So really, really excited about some of those things, really excited about this being a solution that is evaluated on an ongoing basis. Another thing that's really cool are the parent pieces. So it's really important when you're doing a curriculum in a school, because the parents aren't usually there, that there is a parent caregiver piece so that the message can get transferred onto the home front when the kids get home. So we do parent orientations. We have some schools that do those. We'd love to do that. We have we're gonna have an online parent webinar option as well, because sometimes we know it's hard to get parents to the school or to wherever it is. Then we also have take-home pieces that happen as the curriculum goes on. Every day there's a take-home piece that parents get that says, hey, this is what we learned about. So for example, ask me about learn to swim. So it'll go and tell the parents or caregivers what happened in the lesson for the day. And then there's guiding questions of what to talk about at home. Parents also get our Water Guardian cards, our water safety cards here that have the breakout Water Guardian badge. Everyone gets that. So that's another parent caregiver piece. And then this might be my new favorite for this year. It's a bookmark. And on the front, it has the whole hand rules. But I love this part on the back. It allows the family to make their own water safety rules. So similar to what Dan was talking about his kids that were on the pool deck waiting for him when he came back, this allows the family to come up with their own water safety rules. So that is really exciting. I think bridging this whole parent, caregiver, and kid piece to make a web and increase the layers of protection is great. And I too, Dan, I have to tell you that I have also gotten lots of lovely Facebook messages or messages around, hey, you told my kid to ask why no one's watching them, or be their water guardian. And so that is something that I think we are really keen to. I know, Adam, I have to stop talking. So closing it up to kind of ending the same way that Dan did. This is really about creating and changing the culture of water safety from the ground up, but also acknowledging that we have to address and involve the parent caregivers too. So, all right, I know, I'm stopping.
Oh, no, all good. Thanks, Alyssa, for sharing. I mean, it's really exciting to see what, both programs and how you've grown and what you're doing, and, just being two excellent resources for not only schools, but, other outlets to use for drowning prevention and water safety education. And I think that's the first thing. I've gotten this question a couple times coming through from some of our participants. Could both of you briefly speak on how someone could use your programs who maybe isn't associated in a K-12 school?
Can you, okay, well, I can start.
Like a fire department or other educational setting, something like that.
Okay, well, I'll very quickly, for us, we just had Austin Travis County EMS just got the curriculum to put into their Safe Baby training that they do for families. So we do have EMS using it, Safe Kids in multiple locations in Texas have the curriculum and they lend it to members. So they're putting it into different places. And we've got lifeguards that are also using it and doing it in their work as lifeguards. So for us, we can work with almost any setting that we have. It doesn't matter, K-12, we can go anywhere.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Anyone can use it. The curriculum was designed for educators, but again, anyone can use it. We can sign anybody on. We're happy to do demos of the full online curriculum. It's a pretty robust system. So people like to pick and choose the pieces that they like and they're comfortable doing, but we're open to anyone.
Excellent. So I have a couple questions, but I'll start with this because this was a participant-driven question. Could both of you speak to how someone gets trained to utilize your curriculum? So is it, guides available? I know Stop Drowning now has your online platform. Is there any formal training a teacher has to do, or how is that set up? So, if I can speak, for example, when, I contact a school district to do something, one of their questions is how much training are my teachers going to have to go through to do this, right? So, how easy or, how long does that process take?
I'll jump in, but I think our biggest, honestly, I wouldn't even say we have a challenge, just getting people in front of the platform. So we do a screen share, we show people where to poke and where to click and where to find the things that they're looking for and just the basic flow. And then educators pick it up immediately. They go, okay, this is my language, I speak this. And then anybody else, fire departments, all other organizations, we literally help them kind of design a plan for them and give them the pieces that they use.
Okay, and ours, we can do in-person trainings when that's feasible, but we have online training videos. So when someone has the curriculum, they access a password-protected website, and there are videos for each lesson that are 5 to 10 minutes long that they can watch and learn and use. And Jessica, our program director, will laugh because I said I want a monkey to be able to teach this curriculum and learn how to do it very simply. So we've got the videos we can do in person as well. We're looking at some other webinar type things, but it's very, very simple to learn how to teach it.
Awesome. So I have a couple more questions that I want to pose, and one of those, and I think both of you have touched on this in your presentation, is it's always difficult to get into schools. I'm a researcher by trade, and I've done research studies with schools on drowning prevention, and just trying to get into the schools for anything can be a really difficult task to accomplish. You get bombarded with all sorts of questions, different regulations. Even getting to talk to someone at a school can be difficult. So if you could share, what's worked or what hasn't worked in your experience with trying to, convince a school to do this. Has it been lobbying a school board, individual teachers, administration? I know we had a webinar just over a month ago on the law that's pending in New Jersey for requiring this type of education in schools. The reason I ask this is someone said to me once that I was really passionate about getting drowning prevention into schools, as I know all of you are, and they said, Adam, you need to realize you're one of, 40 different topic areas that are fighting and crawling to get the school's attention. So could you both just briefly, discuss your experience with this and what has worked and what hasn't?
I'm happy to start with this because I brought my 10 years of working in the schools and trying to get programs into schools with me when I came here. And I will say right now, strategy and being strategic, having a champion, how we first got in through Austin Independent School District was working with the YMCA, our partners at the YMCA, because they were already a partner in the schools and they already had a relationship. The relationships are so key, and each school district is different. Each school is different. I mean, I know within just in Central Texas, one school district is completely different than the other, and the access is is different. So it's really finding a champion. I think obviously if you have a teacher in the school that already wants to do it, that gets you in the door more. We've worked with parents who have been really advocating for the curriculum in their schools. And again, relationships, and you have to be patient because I think Dan mentioned it, like maybe first coming in with a presentation and then you come in with give them the shallow water experience and then push the deeper water, using the analogy of a pool, because it is challenging and they do have a million demands on their time, and everyone in the community wants to, because they know how accessible you can access thousands of kids very quickly and their parents. So I think also that, and I'll finish up and with this, is lining it up with the educational standards for us is a huge selling point. When we can say this goes and lines up with what you need to teach for the STAR, for example, in Texas, that's a really big selling point. In acknowledging their challenges, we know you don't want to give up in classroom instructional time. We know that that is important, and acknowledging that and respecting that, and not coming in thinking that you are the best solution to their world, because on the hierarchy of needs, they've got a lot going on in schools.
Yeah, I'll echo everything that Alyssa said. We have the same challenges, and I especially, I'm a for-profit business owner teaching swim lessons. So when I come knocking on their door, they immediately put the bars up and say, no, thank you. But what we've done is, from board member standpoint, we're starting with the younger groups. So we're going into the preschools now, as well as the elementary schools. We're going into daycares, preschools, so on and so forth. We sponsor a hell of a lot of schools around our area, and so do all the other board members for PTAs and so on and so forth. We have now started holding back that money unless they will allow us to at least do the 30-minute presentations, and that seems to be working. The high school students, when they go knock on doors, they are not told no. They are told yes, come on in, let's involve the high school. Here locally, we actually have a principal who's championing this locally, who's talking to the other principals and saying, let's do this. Let's get all of our kids into the elementary schools, teach them responsibility, and the elementary schools can't say no. And then it's just hitting them again and again and again and again and again. It's going to the PTAs and saying, look, the principals hate it when we do this, but going to the PTAs and saying, we're giving this to you for free. In this school district, we had 3 kids drown last year. Okay? Are you telling me you can't give up 30 minutes of the year for us to come in and do this presentation here? And the PTAs essentially pressure the principals into doing it, which I know I'm not supposed to say that. But we any way we can get in, we're going to not push our way in, ask to come in, because the information is important. If the school really doesn't want us, then we won't follow them. Generally speaking, it's helping them find another place.
Can I add one thing to that, Adam? And that's just that being mindful of the culture of the school. So, and realizing that the person in each school could be different. So for example, it might be the school nurse. I was just talking with Kristen Beckworth in Houston this morning about, wow, should we use school nurses to figure out how to get into the schools? Or we've got one school district, the PE teachers. So really knowing the culture and being mindful and doing your homework, I think is really important.
I know we could probably continue on with this discussion for another 2 or 3 hours, but we're coming down to the last few minutes here. And what I'd like to ask both of you to end this webinar is, how can drowning prevention advocates help you do this? If we have an advocate who's sitting in a community where their school is not, teaching water safety to children within the school, or maybe even if there's not an opportunity outside of the school system, how can they help you? How can you help them? I think that's one of the biggest things that we could do as, the NDPA, is give a call to action and provide the resources and information to help further, both of your organization's causes. And I know it's not just Stop Drowning Now and Colin's Hope. Alyssa, you mentioned the Zach Foundation is involved. Stewie the Duck has been in schools, Josh the Otter. So, maybe it's not even just a particular program, but it's just the cause in general. What would you say, how could more advocates get involved in this?
I would say start the conversation. I think that's the biggest first step is, hey, this is the need. This is what's happening. Drowning is an epidemic. and we need to do something about it and challenge them to take some action and let them know there are different things out there. There's not just one thing, that there are choices and there are ways that things can fit in their community. But I think having the conversation and starting it and not backing down if you're told no, that patience and developing it and knowing, okay, if I can't go in there with the full-on curriculum, we will do something. We'll do a presentation. Let us in the door somehow. Let us reach your families. And I think it's that everyone needs to talk. If the louder that we can be, if we put our voices together, I think that is huge.
Ditto.
I like that.
I mean, we're all after the same thing, right?
And I think that's exactly it. I think that's exactly it. We are all, this is, I have another prop, not one more drowning. Stop drowning now. I mean, that's what we're about. So we have to figure out how we can work together versus, not together, because we can't reach everyone at Colin's Hope. Stop Drowning Now can't reach everyone. I know we all would like to think that, but let's work together to reach more and impact more.
Yep, and I use the same thing for swim lessons. I don't care where you take swim lessons, as long as you take swim lessons, right? Yeah, I'd love them to come to my swim schools, but if you can't come to me, go somewhere and learn.
Yeah.
Same thing. Just let us know what we can do to help you, and we're happy.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for joining us and sharing information on your curriculum and helping further this cause along. I couldn't echo it better myself. We're all in this for the same reason. And, no matter what it is, as long as the message is getting out and lives are being saved, that's what it's all about. So I'd like to thank everyone and thank our panelists for joining us for today's webinar and sharing their expertise. Please mark your calendars for our next webinar. Our next one will be 2 weeks from today on Wednesday, September 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Our topic that day will be pediatricians prescribing swim lessons, and we'll be joined with experts from our partner organization, Water Smart Babies. As a reminder to everyone, call for presentations is still open for the National Water Safety Conference. However, that does close very soon. The call for presentations closes on September 6th. So if you'd like to share what you're doing in your community or any of your expertise with the attendees at the National Water Safety Conference, please go to watersafetyconference.org and click on Submit a Presentation. The National Water Safety Conference is in early April in Fort Worth, Texas. So we're looking forward to going to Texas. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Alyssa and Dan, for sharing your expertise. And we will see everyone on our next webinar.
Ha! I got it too.
Excellent. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.